We're at the 2017 CROI. We're here talking to Wendy Armstrong. She is with HIVMA and also with the board.
I'm the chair of the board for HIVMA and also a professor of medicine at Emory University.
Emory University, right, right there in Atlanta.
Yes.
So we come to realize that we have some challenges here politically, and we really want to address them because it's daunting to think about the things that can happen. We were just saying about unintended consequences. So set it up for us, if you will, what we're dealing with the travel ban.
Sure. I mean, as you know, the travel ban right now is in limbo, but I think there's significant concern that the travel ban will be reinstituted, and there are a number of consequences that could result from that haven't been perhaps well publicized or maybe have been. One of them is really apparent at this meeting, and that is, there's a scientific discourse that is critical to advancing HIV. We've had incredible success within our own borders and globally, but that's been because of scientific collaboration around the world. And no single country can lay claim to that. At this very meeting, 40% of the presenters are foreign presenters. And that opportunity is critical. In addition, I live in Atlanta, where we have a staggering HIV epidemic that in many ways resembles more the epidemic in sub-Saharan Africa than in New York City or San Francisco. And what we learn from our global partners can be immediately applied locally, and what we learn locally can be immediately applied globally. Science is something that happens, again, in collaboration with people. And although the travel ban, as it was previously, is a limited number of countries, I know many, many colleagues who are from primarily Muslim countries that may or may not have been named that are now afraid to travel, have been advised not to go to conferences, are concerned about coming here. And so this is actually, it's a big deal. But that's one side, is the science side. And I think one other piece that is under-recognized is the effect potentially on the HIV workforce. As you may know, infectious disease the number of trainees has been declining over years, the number of applicants into infectious disease. But aside from that, we now have projections that our HIV workforce will fall far short of where it needs to be over the next 5 years, much less the next 10 or 15. And so we have potentially a real crisis. At our current rate, we are going to not have enough people to care for our patients, but in the face of a declining group of ID-trained physicians, who are not the only people who treat HIV, I think those projections can get worse. A significant proportion of ID infectious disease trainees are foreign-born. That's been an important part of our population, who are really skilled and fantastic physicians. In addition, right now, programs to train internal medicine doctors, for example, are about to put their lists in to sort out who will match and who will be our internal medicine trainees. And there's lots of anxiety about where do you place trainees who may be foreign-born on that list, who may never be able to join programs, and then that will have a downstream effect for infectious disease and HIV.
So when I was just listening to you saying all these things, I'm thinking, like, these are all unintended consequences, at least from our point of view, but they're dramatic, and each one is a very serious issue. Each one of those little pieces, because this conference is so diverse, so important in all the little pieces that are there. If we have those pieces are missing from the puzzle, and those researchers that aren't trained and properly integrated within the system, it's a huge loss to science.
It is, and I think that sometimes there's a desire to think about America in isolation, but infectious disease, HIV, Ebola, Zika, does not know borders, and so we can't pretend that we can exist in the United States in isolation. Whether again it be the brain trust, but it's simply infection will travel across borders. So, I'm very concerned about the effects that this will have, both for our HIV patients, for our scientific community, for our ability to keep the remarkable momentum that we've had moving forward.
So is there an action plan here from there's obviously one from your standpoint, but what can you tell others to do for the community to advocate against the ban, and probably the congressmen, senators, president?
Advocacy is so important, and for the physicians who are listening, physician advocates have a significant voice, but other advocates in the healthcare industry also have a significant voice. You can't.
It's not just about HIV. It's
not just about HIV.
Yeah.
It's about infectious disease.
But
it's about science
that,
in general.
You have that understanding of that area.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't underestimate how impactful it can be to call your senators, staffers, call your congressional offices, meet your local senators and congressmen, or their local offices, and talk to people directly about the impacts for your community. And not only, and again, the rural communities may suffer significantly as well, because again, often it is our wonderful foreign-born physicians who are, going to underserved communities to serve out waiver requirements and so on, who serve these populations and are the only doctor for miles. And so, I just want to urge everyone to make your voice heard and speak up and talk to our legislative leadership.
And when you do the home side visit, when you can set up, you don't often, or rarely will you meet, unless you're really important, with the congressman or the senator.
No, that's right.
But that is nevertheless very important to have that letter that you bring to them and sit down and talk with them about it if you feel so disposed. But there's plenty of information out there about the problems and the challenges that you described, and that's what we need to edify to them.
That's right. You don't need to worry that one may not be an expert on this situation. All you need to do is talk about how this will personally impact your life, your career, your community. That's what people need to hear, and the staff persons at these offices are fantastic about
warm and receiving.
Yeah.
Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. No.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Absolutely.
Okay.